Composite Gloves here, and today we are going to do the 56th video in the Contact from the Ground Up tutorial series, and we're going to be covering LFOs. Once you know one LFL, oh my gosh, once you know one LFO, you kind of know them all. So we're going to control this cutoff that we've been using on all our other stuff, and the nice thing is once you've made a signal, an LFO, you could go down to your LFO and select it and change between them. So first I'm going to delete it. Now I have this LFO controlling the volume. What's cool is we can add an LFO. So we could come down here and add one. And that could work. That could be one way. We'll add a second LFO to control it. Or we go to add modulator, existing LFO volume. The LFO is controlling our volume as a target. And bangzo, man, they are now... The same LFO controls now our cutoff and our volume. So what is an LFO? An LFO is a waveform that oscillates slower than the audio range. Now these LFOs actually have the ability to go up to audio range 213.1 apparently hertz per second. So that's actually audio range. Usually it's a wave between 20 hertz and below. So oscillates slower than we are able to perceive a pitch, essentially. When a wave gets so slow, you just can't perceive a tone from it. So this is used as a controlling signal to turn something on and off. So we have a visual representation of it here. So when it's at the bottom, it's off. When it's at the top, it's on. And it oscillates between these positions like any other frequency would according to its frequency. So how many times in a second it goes on and off, essentially. So if we have it down to 1.2 times a second, you see that it's also represented right here on our volume and our cutoff. And so if we slow it down or increase it, that'll speed up or slow down. Now, when you start getting into modulation territory, like 210s within modulation, meaning it's basically an LFO at audio rate, you start getting math starts happening. And I have a video, what is FM synthesis? Go check it out if you're interested in modulation, mostly for FM8, because that's basically the principle behind FM8. You're modulating frequency so fast that it creates these unusual sidebands in things, and it's a whole overtone timbre type deal. But you start getting that with this as well. So anyways, that's the frequency, and then you have, so it speeds up, slows down. Now you have your retrigger option, which is the same as the other one. It will produce two LFOs to process the notes independently, but that might not, as you can hear, be desirable. You can take it off so it sends out one signal and all other notes hop on that same signal, which is very useful for an LFO because it keeps them all in perfect sync. So that is pretty cool. Now, that's our frequency, that's our retrigger. You have presets as usual, and you can bypass it. And you can even set external sources to control the modulation, just like the other one. And you can set its target and what you want it to control and all that. This should all be old news by now on how those settings work. So now you have a fade in. So if we want it to take its time, we can set it, and it's even visually represented here. Kind of cool to watch. But it'll take 2.4K, representing 1,000 milliseconds to fade in. So you see it whooshes in. If we turn it up to 10, that's a lot. So it'll take quite a while. And if we watch our graph thing, let's put it on default. And come on. Oh, I think it's because it's linked to this one. Yeah, it's linked in here. So, okay, that works. So we see it fades in. That's a good thing to know. When you link an existing LFO to something else, you got to go to the original LFO to change the table. So you see, and because it was not on retrigger, it did not retrigger so it did not restart the fade in. So that could become a problem. I can't think of a way currently right now to remedy this, or at least I haven't tried to. So, but if we hit retrigger, it'll start at the beginning of the fade off. But if you don't, it'll pick up from the last level left at. So then it almost doesn't matter if you have a fade in. So that's something you may need to overcome if you intend to use this feature. So, and now you have phase. This controls. Let's get rid of this. So you have the starting point of your waveform, and you move the phase. You move where it starts. I've said this several times throughout the series, so I'm not too stressed about it. And you can modulate the frequency, fade in or whatever with an additional external modulator such as velocity or aftertouch or a CC controller, which is basically just a knob or a slider or something. And that is that. Now you can select the other waveform type. So you can go to a triangle wave. You can go to a rectangle wave. Let's slow this down. This is a square wave. It's a pulse. Now with the square wave, you get a pulse thing, so you can move the pulse to happen. And you could change that. So that's pretty cool with the pulse. You have this sawtooth. And then you have this random one. So it's just random. But it's random square. So I don't know why it's not real random, but it's okay because we have this multi one. And this multi one is real random because you can... Okay, so let's go over this real quick. So you can select your frequency of the waveform, and you can basically morph between a bunch of other... So you can morph between the sine wave. So let's turn everything off right now. Except... Let's set this right here. Presets. Reset. There we go. So we don't have anything. And it's oscillating at 5 times a second with no fade in. The phase is the same. So these 3 knobs are the same. You have your pulse width, which doesn't matter quite yet. This may matter later. It's really weird when you start using it against something that's not a square. And now we have our sine wave. So let's turn that on. And oh man, we have a sine wave. But we have a triangle wave here. What happens? It morphs between them. So we get this in-between shape. And we could put a rectangle wave in. We get that shape. And you can do all the in-betweens. You can even put a saw wave in. And you get that shape. And you can add random. So this just randomizes parts of it. Now this is what I mean when I say this is real random. Because you have all your waveforms. It's not just a square wave anymore. So at least I believe it's real random. And so that is what that is. So if you want them to go away, you got to go back to 0. Which you hit control to do that. And you can morph between them and create your more advanced, more interesting shapes. You could change the frequency and the pulse width, which is, again, interesting if you're using something like sine waves and saw waves. Basically, it just creates rhythm if you're going in the slow range of the frequency. And you can change the phase. So if you wanted to start on, because right now it starts off, you could push it over till it starts to a value that you think you like, and then you're good to go. That is pretty much what these do. Now you have this normalized level. So why does this exist? What is normalized? Normalized is when you have a signal or a piece of audio and you blow it up proportionally. So whatever the loudest point is, it'll blow it up to 0 decibels, and all the other points will get louder in proportion to that, how far that went up. So the reason this exists is, well, let's click it off, and boom, it just got way loud. We see it clipping at the tops and bottoms. The parts of our waveform are getting cut off. This is because, and you see normalized levels actually reduces it in this case. So this is like a weird normalized. That's because when you combine multiple waveforms, at least the way they've set it up, it adds all the different parts together. And so you may not want that. So see, for right now, that's fine. We'll turn normalize off. See, that's fine. But if we turn a triangle on, it adds that. And if we turn a rectangle on, it adds that. And so we start having problems. Now, this could be something that you actually really want, because it could create some cool pulse movements at the top, almost like the square wave, except for not. And I love how they call it rectangle. Like, blows me away that they call it rectangle for some reason. It's like, Yeah, it's a rectangle, but everyone calls it the square, but except them. That's so strange. So anyways, that's why that normalized level is there. So if you go beyond that and you start clipping and you don't want that clipping, which might be something you do want, who knows, you can hit normalized level, reduce it down to where it does not clip. Fun times. And that is what this can do. That is the power of the multi-oscillator. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you have any compliments, please drop those in the comments as well. Make sure you start the compliment section. I really like that one. And have a blessed day.